Why, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Nate Branco, here presenting episode 12 of Showcase Central. And today I have a guest with me. This is David Brock, also known as Big Brock Cock, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on, y'all?
Hell yeah, I've been friends with this guy for about 6 years now. Legendary Xbox Live chats at midnight. Oh man,
The good old, the good old COVID era.
yep, exactly. I'm so glad he's able to join me today. We're here on the biggest agenda of the freaking week. Oh man, so we're gonna discuss Braves. We're gonna discuss the new home run derby rules. MLB owners wanted to get rid of high school signings. And we're even going to have a little fun with expansion teams of what he thinks deserves what state deserves an MLB squad, what I think is an MLB squad. And then he's actually going to present his own DraftKings lock of the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get right to it. But first, I want to talk about my Philadelphia experience. So let's just say I got an autograph of Aaron Nola, and I also got a selfie with the guy pre-game. It was awesome, guys. He is amazing. One of my favorite Phillies of all time since I started watching. David's a fan of him as well. And yeah, honestly, guys, people may shit on the fans, but honestly, they weren't too bad. I saw a couple of balls thrown from two Kyle Stowers home runs, but hey, it was a vibe. I got sunburn, suntan, whatever, but yeah.
I'm sure if I would have been there, I probably would have gotten trash talks, especially if I would have had Braves gear on, because I know Phillies fans don't like me.
Oh,
Yeah.
rivalries be like that, man, in the NL East,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
Exactly. And I mean, like you were saying, I mean, I'm also a fan of Aaron Nola. He's one of the very few Phillies on that team that I like. It's just I hate going against him.
Oh, it'd be like that. It'd be like that, man, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
So, you mentioned the Braves. Am I going to go straight to it? So, the trade deadline is coming up in August. And I want to speak to you about what you think the Braves need going into August and deep into the summer and potentially making a very big postseason run. So I want to talk to you about some trades, what you think they need. Do they need an extra bat, a pitcher, or anything bullpen related? Talk to me, David.
Yeah, sure. So about the trade deadline for a Braves fan standpoint, um, given with where we're at right now, the Braves. I don't think the Braves should be buyers just to say that they've bought. If they somehow, some way make a move here and there, it needs to be something that makes sense for this year and in the future, because their philosophy here within the past like 3 4 years, or ever since they won the World Series, they've kind of had this philosophy of, all right, if we're going to make a trade, I don't want it to just benefit us now. I want it for us to benefit us now and into the future. Somebody that's going to contribute not only this year, but next year and so on. And so I feel like with where they're at right now compared to where we were at last year, it's a little bit different, because last year, the same exact date last year, the Braves were sitting at 34 and 39, 11 games back in first place of the National League East behind the Phillies. Obviously, last year is last year. That's in the past. We're in this year. Thankfully, the Braves have managed to build themselves a nice little buffer, given how hot they've started this year and how hot they've been the first half of the year. Obviously, they're kind of in a tough stretch right now where they're currently 1-6 in their last 7 games. But obviously, whenever it comes to teams that are World Series contenders, playoff contenders, division title contenders, every team goes through a tough stretch here and there, throughout the course of the season. It's a 162-game season, very long season. But in terms of where they're sitting at right now, I think the injuries right now to Acuna, Michael Harris, and Strider have kind of changed a little of their outlook. Hurston Waldrop is coming back soon. And so I feel like that right there is already like a trade acquisition in itself whenever he comes back. And so whenever he comes back, it's going to be interesting to see what he gives the Braves before trying to, I guess, overpay for somebody. And I also would say, they don't necessarily need to trade their top prospects unless you're getting a legitimate difference maker. And so actually, yesterday, the Braves actually just made a trade. They acquired catcher Joey Bart from the Pirates in exchange for relief pitcher Hunter Stratton, and then they managed to also designate Sandy Leon for assignment to make room on the 40-man roster. And so I actually kind of like this trade the more that I get into details about it, because the Braves desperately need catching depth. Obviously, after injuries and roster shuffling, they lost Sean Murphy, who was on the 60-day IL, and there's obviously no telling when he'll be back. Probably more than likely sometime late August, somewhere in that range. The Braves have been cycling through catchers such as guys like Sandy Leon, Chadwick Tromp, Austin Wynns, but none of them have been able to really provide much offensively. And so Joey Bart is more than just a typical backup. Excuse me. Before landing on the injured list, Bart was hitting .259 this season for Pittsburgh. He also had stretches over the last few years where he's looked like a solid major league catcher. And keep in mind, he was also the number 2 draft pick at one point. And he's also only 29 years old, so he's still relatively young. The cost was minimal. Like I said, Alex Anthopoulos, he's known for trying to make moves at very minimal, like trying to move as minimal as possible in order to get a valuable piece. Hunter Stratton spent most of the season in AAA for Atlanta and had already been designated for assignment. And so if you're getting a major league catcher for a player you were actually about to lose anyway, that's usually a win in the book itself. And so Joey Bart, for him to, I guess, kind of play that role as a backup catcher to Drake Baldwin, better offensive upside than Leon, however you say his name, a catcher with major league experience, more depth behind the plate while Sean Murphy works back from injury. But another thing with Sean Murphy is that he's still a relatively good catcher behind the dish, but his bat within the last year or so has been kind of a big miss. And so really the only downside about Joey Bart is his health. Obviously, Bart is coming off a foot infection, but he had already begun a rehab assignment before the trade and is expected to be available soon. And so, like I was saying, this is a classic Alex Anthopoulos move. He didn't mortgage the future. He addressed a need. He bought low on a former number 2 overall pick, and he's only 29 years old. If Joey Bart gets Atlanta league average production as a backup catcher, it's very easily that they win this trade. Now, in terms of who else that they should probably go after, so I would say, given with where they're sitting at right now, obviously when you're one of the best teams in baseball so far, you never can go wrong with adding more depth pieces to your starting rotation or another bat, whether it's an offensive like starting bat, like your starting lineup type of guy, or somebody on your bench to upgrade your bench, because obviously you can't go wrong with having more depth, especially when it gets into like late summer and then you make that deep push for the postseason. Because generally in baseball, the deeper teams go the furthest. And so what I have here on my list is some guys that they should definitely go after. In terms of where they're at right now, I definitely do think they need to target a starting pitcher, whether it's a guy like Robbie Ray. That's a guy I really like. Tarek Skubal, although I think Skubal would be a little bit kind of out of their range of trying to get
brother,
him.
you be giving up a lot for him.
Exactly, yeah. And it's crazy enough, you got teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees that might try to go in on that.
Sure.
Right? And then I also have, let's see. But yeah, Robbie Ray, I would say, is definitely a little bit more of a fit, or a little bit more, I guess, better chances of acquiring him, because the Giants have already, I guess, admitted that they're open to selling guys given with where they're at right now in the NL West, and they're obviously, I don't think they're not even going to come close to making the playoffs. So they've kind of already, I guess, thrown in the towel, and they have Robbie Ray, yeah. Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, Jung-Ho Lee, they're all tradable pieces. They're sellers. Another pitcher, Seth Lugo, with the Kansas City Royals. A little bit older, but he's still somewhat productive, and I definitely feel like him or Robbie Ray could be a very good piece to a Braves rotation. He's a little bit older guy, but they bring veteran experience, veteran leadership in the clubhouse, and to pair him up with Chris Sale, I'm sure that would be a win right there.
Could I give you a good one?
Sure.
So I saw this earlier today, and I thought of you, of course, and this was actually reported by John Heyman, and he actually said Sonny Gray
That was
might be linked.
that was another name I actually have right here written down as Sonny Gray of the Boston Red Sox. And so, because the Red Sox, I guess, right now are sellers, given with where
Oh,
they're at.
honestly, they have to be at this point because there's no way they're going anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
They're
And then,
sinking in the AL East.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I obviously don't really keep up with the American League as much as I do with the National League, but yeah. So far, those are in terms of like pitchers. I would say probably a mixture of, whether it be Sonny Gray, Robbie Ray, Seth Lugo, or even somebody like Luis Castillo. Yeah, but in terms of offensive production for like outfielders, infielders, whatever, a name that I have written down is Byron Buxton. Mainly if Minnesota waives their trade clause, or if Buxton waives off his trade clause or something like that. So yeah, I got him, and then I also have Luis Robert.
Oh,
That's kind of it depends on whether the Mets are they willing to sell, but also at the same time they are a division rival of the Braves. Do I think a deal is going to happen between them two? Probably not. But if the Mets are willing to sell, he's probably going to get moved at some point, given with where they're currently at right now. But again, who knows? Crazier things have happened. If I'm not mistaken, back in 2021, the Atlanta Braves managed to snag Adam Duvall back from the Miami Marlins. Usually, divisional trades are very rare to come by, and you generally don't see a whole lot of them nowadays. But yeah, and then let's see. I also have an infielder on here too. I guess to kind of sort of if they want to push Ha-Seong Kim around, but honestly, given with where they're at, in terms of infielder depth, I really don't think they need to do anything. But if they do happen to want to try to snag somebody, it would probably be a mixture of either, let's see, I got Gleyber Torres, Trevor Story. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's definitely worth taking note of and keeping an eye on. And also, I have a hot take to go along with this.
shoot.
So Spencer Strider obviously just landed on the 60-day IL. Personally, I think when Strider comes back from the IL, I would seriously consider putting him in the bullpen for the rest of the season. Here's why. If you have kept up with him since he got called up and then through the injury he had in 24, ever since he had his surgery back in 2024, his command hasn't really been as consistent. Now, don't get me wrong, he still gets a lot of strikeouts. He can still dominate hitters. Only kill is that he walks more guys, gives up more extra base hits, and his velocity has slightly dipped since after he had the surgery. I feel like if you give him more of like shorter outings, it could help him, I guess, air it out more, and he'd be able to make more appearances in more games, even if he's only pitching 1 or 2 innings. And it would also be less wear on his arm. You might see a scenario where if he goes to the bullpen, he might have a little bit more bite on all of his pitches in his arsenal. Like you might all of a sudden start seeing his fastball go back up to like 98, 99, maybe even bouncing around the 100 mark again. And then also see more bite out of his changeup and breaking ball, which the third pitch has been the killer for him because when he first came up, he was only really throwing 2 pitches, a fastball and a changeup, and then he recently just added in a slider. And so, yeah, and then he also tends to have a lot of moments where his command just isn't there. And so when you're a starter and you have command volatility, that's usually a recipe for disaster, especially when you're trying to stretch a guy for 6 or 7 innings, no pun intended. But yeah, I feel like definitely for sure that I feel like that should be something that Walt Weiss and the Braves staff should try to consider if whenever Strider comes back, see how that could be. And personally, I feel like that could be beneficial for Strider. And you could possibly see him in a scenario late in the season, or even if you get into the postseason, come out of the bullpen in certain high leverage situations, because obviously he has plenty of playoff experience and that type of stuff.
That honestly would not be a bad idea whatsoever. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Walt Weiss better be careful with that. And he's just, if I were him, I would monitor the situation very closely, especially when he comes back from the IL.
Yeah. It's just a situation to monitor because, the command issues, generally, you're going to have a tough time trying to face an offensive lineup 2 to 3 times around. And you won't last as long in a game.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to go to our next topic, and it is the new home run derby rules. This is literally 8 players in round 1. The top 4 advance to round 2. Seeding starts in round 2 with number 1 going up against 4 and 2 going up against 3. 20 swings in round 1, 15 swings in round 2 and 3. Players who homer on their last swing will continue hitting until they make an out. And the tiebreakers are home run distance in round 1, 3 swing off in rounds 2 and 3. And there's one huge thing I realized throughout that whole report. They pretty much got rid of the time limit for the home run derby. I thought that was insane. I was like, wow. I'm like, are people getting that bored? David, give me your thoughts, bro.
So the new home run derby rules, from my standpoint, I actually like it because I think more swings instead of time being timed keeps everyone on their, equal footing. And rewarding a home run on the last swing is awesome because obviously it creates more drama. And obviously, who doesn't like drama whenever it comes to the home run derby? I also feel like it would take less pressure off of the hitters because when you have a timer to hit a certain amount of home runs, that can kind of trigger you to just swing at everything. And obviously, there's been times in the past where MLB players, they get invited to the home run derby, but they decline it because they don't want to accidentally pull a muscle or something like that. Especially if they're on a team that's like a big time contender. And so, yeah, I really think it would take pressure off of all the hitters, and generally you'll probably see more home runs. Home run distance as a tiebreaker is, I would say, that's a little bit better than random swing offs. Only downside is I hope MLB doesn't necessarily try to overcomplicate it. Fans, they tune in because it's simple, Guys are hitting home runs. All they're doing is just hitting bombs, and who honestly wouldn't want to see that? I feel like more home runs you see, more excitement, and the more engaged that all the fans are into the derby.
Oh, that's for sure, man. That's for sure. If there's one thing that used to drive me crazy whenever it would give on ESPN is the overabundance of commercials
Oh my God.
whenever they had somebody. Like, do you remember the year when Adley Rushman was in the Derby, and I think he was like the 8th seed, and
Yeah.
literally halfway through round 1, and it was like, I think it was like his 8th swing or whatever, or 8th home run, they already went to commercial break, and I'm like, oh
Oh
no.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't remember watching it, but I remember seeing memes and stuff that were made of it. It blew up all over in different Instagram pages, and I remember seeing something about it. Yeah,
It was just crazy. I'm just
that's
like,
that's wild.
I don't know if you guys know this, but a home run derby is now going to be on Netflix, so that should be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see how it rolls. Some of you guys may like it, some of you guys don't, but hey, it is what it is. We'll just have to stay tuned, and of course, as the weeks go by, I'm going to ask you guys for your predictions of who you think's going to win, and I'm going to go over bracket rounds of what's going on. Okay, so this is probably the top story of this week. MLB owners propose banning high school signings, adding an international draft. Changes to its amateur entry system that would cut signing bonuses by more than $150 million annually. Make high school players ineligible for the domestic draft and institute an international draft. Domestic draft to shorten from 20 to 12 hard-slotted rounds and amateur signing bonus pool to be nearly halved, plus 200 million. International draft would cover all amateur players outside of the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Would also be 12 rounds with a... Oh, wait, I had already said that. The most pertinent elements of MLB's proposal: a minimum draft age of 20 for domestic players and raising the minimum age for international players from 16 to 18. The ability to trade all draft picks, but only for the following draft: 2000 bonus of $10,000 for undrafted players, with international players who make a full season minor league affiliate receiving a $30,000 bonus, and domestic players receiving a $30,000 bonus if teams want to remove them from eligibility for the Rule 5 draft after their second season. The elimination of competitive balance picks currently awarded annually to lower revenue and smaller market teams. So this was interesting. This really was, because it seems like they don't want these high schoolers already jumping the gun. It seems like they want them going to college instead of betting on themselves and going straight from high school to the majors. David, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most controversial topics. Obviously, there's some pros and cons of this. I feel like, with the international draft, it could definitely reduce the corruption and, how they have different types of, because I think the Braves a few years back got busted for something like that, where they were offering people money before they had, I guess, declared for some draft. I don't really know too much details about that, but I remember the Braves a few years back got busted for something, and they had to forfeit international draft picks and signings. There's obviously going to be more money in amateur bonuses, and I feel like trading draft picks would be very interesting, because you typically don't really. Baseball never really has it set up like the NFL, where you see trades happen and it involves draft picks. And so yeah. Cons, the con side, I would say I personally don't agree with raising the domestic draft age to 20. Reason why I say that is because I feel like if you're gifted enough and you're good enough at 18, you should have the opportunity to be drafted, because not everybody wants to go to college. And I'm sure nobody really wants to, do schoolwork and do academic side and stuff like that. But I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's pros and cons to everything. Cutting the draft from 20 rounds to 12 rounds means that hundreds of players will lose opportunities. And so I feel like that's a pretty big deal in terms of, how many players get drafted a year, whether it's their last opportunity to try to get drafted. But I feel like also they're reducing it because they might see a sample size to where the players that get drafted in the real late rounds, there's a very high chance that they don't sign with the team, because the signing bonus just isn't that much compared to the people that are drafted in the top 10 rounds, top 5 rounds. But yeah, I'm kind of against that, because a lot of players would lose opportunities, and they would have to, I guess, go through more of whether it be a supplemental type of way to try to get signed by a MLB team and get assigned to the minor leagues, or who knows. But yeah, I just think a lot of players would lose opportunities, but at the same time, it's almost it's not really like the players that get drafted in the 50th round choose to sign with the team anyway, because the signing bonus ain't that great. Now, I could also see a scenario where you might get drafted in the 50th round and you're a freshman in college, or you're finishing up high school. Obviously, they're going to want to go to college because they have that additional time to try to upgrade their skills and then be on more radars and become a better prospect in the future.
I've been thinking about this all day, man, and honestly, I really don't mind them trying to do this, because so if you're trying to go high school straight into the MLB, there is a really really good chance that you may be stuck in single A forever or even double A. In my opinion, I think it might be best if they actually attend to go to college. I know you just said that like some may not want to go to college and
Yeah,
don't want to do that schoolwork and whatnot. I
the
mean,
academic
that's
side.
yeah, I mean that's just them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I feel like you had just mentioned building your skill set in college. I also feel that like if you go to college and you are in a really good team, the Vanderbilts, the LSUs, the Tennessees, the Georgia,
Miss, Mississippi
Miss
State.
yes, exactly,
Can't
Mississippi
forget about
State.
them.
Can't forget about them, bro. I feel like them being on college teams like that, and then we see the College World Series and all that on television. I
Right.
feel like that would really bring nice national exposure to those players,
Yep.
and we get to watch them, whether they're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever. We get to see them in college, see them grow, and then we find
Yep.
out, oh hey, they're going into the draft. And it's like, ooh, excellent. I've seen that guy play. He's pretty damn good. Maybe he ends up top 5. Maybe he ends up top 10. But hey, I mean, if it's pretty much them trying to persuade them, hey, go to college. Signing bonus, I feel like that would be pretty good, especially with the NIL money that is
Oh yeah,
dished out nowadays.
for sure. Yeah, because your MLB career is not guaranteed. The future is not guaranteed for you. And another thing is like, I was a college athlete myself, although I just graduated last month. And so, yeah, I kind of understand from that standpoint because it's like, being a college athlete, you're kind of having to balance academics and your sport. And so, but what you said about like, the Vanderbilts, the Mississippi States, the Tennessees, the Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, like those teams, I feel like also you would definitely see more heated rivalries and you'll probably see more stacked teams because I don't know if you notice, and this is definitely something that I've picked up on. In college baseball, the pitching generally is not the greatest overall because a lot of your good pitchers they get drafted on, out of high school or they get drafted early in their college career, all of your top arms get drafted easily. So they obviously go sign with whatever team that picks them and they go straight to the minor league system. And so definitely for sure, you see a lot more volatility whenever it comes to certain aspects of the college baseball landscape. Whenever it comes to the quality of pitchers, the hitters too. Obviously, batting averages are all over the place, and yeah, and it's the same with like bullpen pitchers too. Like you've got inflated ERAs everywhere. Guys who all they do is strike out but give up home runs. It's actually kind of cool to look at. Yeah, and that definitely like you would probably see more bigger stakes rivalries. Seeing like matchups, especially in the College World Series, you might have two teams going at it, and they've got like half their teams that are all draft prospects. Like they're projected to go freaking first round, second round, stuff like that.
It's pretty cool. I hope the MLB actually gets this done and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they accept it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we're gonna play a little game. So you guys actually have heard the talk of adding two expansion teams, one to the American League and one to the National League. So I talked to David about this, and I had him pick one National League team that deserves it and one American League that actually deserves it from either state or whatever. So I actually created some divisions. I did a little bit of a realignment of sorts. So I did AL East, AL Great Lakes, AL South, AL West. Sorry, North, you didn't make it. But I pretty much did that with the American League and the National League. Okay, so the two teams that I had selected were actually Southern teams. Because, baseball is very popular down south. David knows it.
Oh yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
what I selected was Nashville. Nashville going into the American League. And for the National League, I selected Charlotte, North Carolina. I think that's solid because I think both of those atmospheres of sports, they do deserve them because, Nashville already has the Predators of hockey. They already have the Titans of football. And honestly, by time they deserve a baseball team, guys. And I know Charlotte, North Carolina, I know they don't really have much aside from the Hurricanes in hockey and the Hornets of the NBA. So, why not? Right?
Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's right. Carolina Panthers. Good looks. Yeah, complete the square, Okay,
Right.
so I'm going to go first. So, for the AL East, I have the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, and the Philadelphia Phillies. Pretty much, I stacked them 4 instead of 5. So for the AL Great Lakes, I have the Detroit Tigers, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Minnesota Twins. The AL South, this one was tricky. Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals, and the new expansion team, Nashville. Whatever they want to be named in the future. The AL West. This is a shakeup. Seattle Mariners, San Francisco Giants, Colorado Rockies, and the future Las Vegas A's to be. Here we go with the National League, guys. National League East. Baltimore Orioles, Washington Nationals, Pittsburgh Pirates, Cleveland Guardians, National League Great Lakes. Both Chicago teams, Cubs and White Sox, the Cincinnati Reds, and the St. Louis Cardinals. David, this is where I include your team. National League South, sorry. Atlanta Braves, Tampa Bay Rays, Miami Marlins, and Charlotte, North Carolina. And last but not least, National League West, Arizona Diamondbacks. Both LA teams, the Dodgers and the Angels, and last but not least, the San Diego Padres. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm very interested to hear your opinions. David, what you got for me, man?
All right. So believe it or not, I'm actually right with you. My 2 expansion teams are Nashville and Charlotte. Surprisingly. Now obviously I didn't make I almost said daggone. I didn't make a full divisions graph of what it would make. I'm kind of just looking off of kind of what you put. But yeah, I definitely think Nashville would get a team, mainly because Tennessee is also a real big baseball state, especially when you've got Tennessee Volunteers baseball, Vanderbilt. They're both powerhouses.
Tony Vitello, shout out to him.
Oh yeah, they're both baseball powerhouses in college baseball landscape, and they're going to be good for a while. And kind of what you were saying, baseball's big down south, and I definitely don't see why Nashville wouldn't get a team. I mean, they've already gotten well enough support for them to have baseball. Only downfall is you could also debate whether if they do happen to get a team, would they struggle to get fans? Because obviously Tennessee is kind of sort of in Braves country a little bit. A lot of your Tennessee residents, whenever it comes to baseball, a lot of them root for the Braves. Same thing whenever it comes to Charlotte too. Charlotte, North Carolina, that's also Braves country. They already draw a lot of Braves fans over there, but at the same time, Charlotte's also another one of those cities where they could definitely, a huge metro area. It's just their only, I guess, competition would be all right. They would have to compete with, Braves and Braves fans and stuff like that. But like you were saying, they had like a whole square of like all the professional teams, but they just don't have an MLB team yet. They do have a AAA team though, the Charlotte Knights. Shout out to them because their stadium is quite nice, like the landscape in the background with like the skyline of Charlotte. I've been by their stadium before, but I've never seen a game there. And actually, as a matter of fact, when I rode by their stadium, I later found out that Spencer Strider was making a rehab assignment with the Gwinnett Stripers, and the Gwinnett Stripers were playing in Charlotte against the Knights. And so that was pretty cool. But yeah, so on my end, honestly, my divisions would be very similar to yours. Only thing that I would switch up would be whenever you said the National League and American League Great Lakes. How in the National League Great Lakes you have both the Chicago Cubs and White Sox. I would actually keep it the way it is in terms of like, have one of them in the National League and the other one in the American League. Put the White Sox, keep them in the American League, and then you could bring back Milwaukee and put them in the NL Great Lakes. Same thing for the AL West and the NL West. Put the Angels, keep them in the AL West, and then another big thing. You have the Giants in the AL West. Personally, I would keep them back in the NL West, mainly because you don't want to kind of like destroy the, I guess, concept of trying to, I guess, disconfigure rivalries. Kind of keep the rivalries together because obviously Dodgers and Giants, that's easily one of the most, it's up there, right up there, not far with the Yankees and Red Sox in terms of the most heated rivalries in all of baseball. And so I would definitely, kind of keep them together. Same thing with the Braves and the Marlins definitely don't like one another. But, yeah. Where did you put Philadelphia? Oh, the NL East, yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, I have them in the AL East along with the Mets, Yankees, and Red Sox.
Oh, yeah, that's right. See, right there, I like how you kept the Red Sox and the Yankees still in the same division. Obviously, you got to keep them together.
Have to.
Yeah, you always want to see that rivalry. Let's see, Cubs, Cardinals. Yeah, so you also kept the Cubs and the Cardinals in the same, which I like. Yeah. Overall, I like the layout you have, with 8 divisions, 4 teams in each division, kind of set up similar to how the NFL is. You've got your NFC West, NFC South, NFC North, NFC East, and then vice versa for the American League. 32 teams, 4 teams in each division. That's the way it should be. Obviously, more teams, the better. Bring in more revenue, more money to be made, and ability to see more teams and more players out there. And honestly, yeah, the more the better. Whenever it comes to something like this, definitely for sure. I think out of all the expansion teams out there as a whole, I would definitely say Nashville and Charlotte would probably have the greatest chances of getting a team before any other cities out there, whether it be like Portland, Oregon, Salt Lake City, San Antonio. Yeah. I almost said Vegas, but I just realized that A's are coming to Vegas. That would have been the case 3 years ago.
Did you hear about Sacramento throwing their bid in there?
I did see that, yeah. Yeah, that was interesting.
They got the rental A's. They don't need it.
They got a rental team. It's okay.
So you would swap out Milwaukee and the White Sox in the AL, NL Great Lakes, and you would also swap out the Giants and the Angels with the West?
Yeah.
Honestly, you know what? That's valid. That really is valid.
Keep the rivalries together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yep.
All right, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with our DraftKings lock of the day. So just before we get into this, Monday, I actually went 3 for 3 on that. I had the Cubs over the Rockies. I had the Cardinals over the Padres. And I also had the Phillies over the Marlins. I was proud of myself. I got out of that dry spell. All right, so I made a little parlay. It's up to you guys if you want to take it or not. I don't care, but I'm going to start off with mine, and then I had David make his, and he's got a pretty solid one for you guys. So today I got Cardinal shortstop J.J. Weatherholt for 2 hits. I have Angels pitcher Jose Soriano with 5 strikeouts. And then I have the money line of the Diamondbacks beating the Twins, as well as the money line of the LA Dodgers beating the Baltimore Orioles. David, take it away.
Yeah, so obviously you got a pretty good parlay there that I also like. The one that I created for myself is Tigers money line against the White Sox. They got Tarek Skubal on the mound, and there's not much I really have to say about that. Skubal's obviously a top 3 pitcher in the league. The next one I have is the Diamondbacks over the Twins, over 4.5 runs. Reason why is because the Diamondbacks have one of the better offenses in baseball whenever it comes to left-handed pitching. The Twins have a lefty on the mound, Connor Prelup, who currently has a 5.27 ERA, and I feel like the Diamondbacks should have no problem trying to put up runs in that game today. Hopefully that works out.
Solid analysis, folks.
Yeah, and so, yeah. The next one I have is the Brewers money line against my beloved Braves. Reason why I say that is because the Brewers have Jacob Mizorowski on the mound, who is arguably the hottest pitcher in baseball right now. Racks up a lot of strikeouts. He's currently a top candidate for the NL Cy Young. And if he keeps it up, I feel like he should easily run away with the Cy Young. But besides the point, the Braves are currently without Acuna in their lineup. Michael Harris is day-to-day, so they're right there. They're already missing 2 of their top bats. And so, don't get me wrong, though. The Braves lineup has shown in the past to get after top guys in recent games this year. You know, earlier when they played the Tigers, they actually managed to get Skubal out of the game by like the 3rd or the 4th inning.
I remember.
They managed to put up some runs on him. Crazier things have happened, but the only thing about that was they still had Acuna and Harris in the lineup and a fully relatively healthy lineup at the time. And so I feel like that will kind of deteriorate them a little bit, and I feel like Mizorowski should have no problem against the Braves today. And yeah, Brewers should be able to win tonight against the Atlanta Braves, so that's why I have their money line. And then last but not least, I also have, just like you, Nate, Jose Soriano, 5 strikeouts against the Las Vegas Athletics, or whatever they're called.
Solid. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Showcase Central episode 12. I do gotta say, like and subscribe on this video. Let me know if you want David back on Showcase Central. He was an amazing guest today. I myself want him back in the future, but that's totally up to him. This was awesome. What an episode. I'm so glad you guys can join us on this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are signing out on a beautiful Friday. Go enjoy yourselves. Go out for a walk. Go do this. Go do that. Go for a drive. Enjoy yourselves, everyone. Have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day. I will see you guys on Monday. David, thank you for being a great guest today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and I already want to come back on.
Hell yeah. Let's make it happen in the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Stay blessed, folks.
Y'all have a good one.